Medieval India, page number 109, Malwa and Mewar. The state of Malwa was situated on the high plateau between the rivers Narmada and Tapti. It commanded the trunk routes between Gujarat and northern India, as also between North and South India. As long as Malwa continued to be strong, it acted as a barrier to the ambitions of Gujarat, Mewar, the Bahmanis, and the Lodi Sultans of Delhi. The geopolitical situation in northern India was such that if any of the powerful states of the region could extend its control over Malwa, it would be well on its way to make a bid for domination of the entire North India. During the 15th century, the kingdom of Malwa remained at the height of its glory. The capital was shifted from Dhar to Mandu, a place which is highly defensible and which had a great deal of natural beauty. Here, the rulers of Malwa constructed a large number of buildings, the ruins of which are still impressive. Unlike the Gujarat style of architecture, the Mandu architecture was massive and was made to look even more so by using a very lofty plinth for the buildings. The large scale use of the colored and glazed tiles provided variety to the buildings. The best known among them are the Jama Masjid, the Hindola Mahal, and the Jahaz Mahal. From the beginning, the kingdom of Malwa was torn by internal dissensions. The struggle for succession between different contenders to the throne was accompanied by a fighting between different groups of nobles for power and profit. The neighboring states of Gujarat and Mewar were always ready to take advantage of this factionalism for their own purposes. One of the early rulers of Malwa, Hushang Shah, adopted a broad policy of religious toleration. Many Rajputs were encouraged to settle in Malwa. Thus, two of the elder brothers of Rana Mughal of Mewar were granted Jagirs in Malwa. From the inscription of the Lalitpur temple, which was built during this period, it appears that no restrictions were placed on the construction of temples. Hushang Shah extended his patronage to the Jains, who were the principal commercial merchants and bankers of the area. Thus, Nardeva Soni, a successful merchant, was treasurer of Hushang Singh and one of his advisors. Unfortunately, the rulers of Malwa were not equally tolerant. Mahmud Khalji, 1436-69, who was considered the most powerful of the Malwa rulers, destroyed many temples during his struggle with Rana Khumba of Mewar and with the neighboring Hindu Rajas. Though his action cannot be justified, most of them were carried out during the periods of war and cannot be considered part of any policy of general destruction of Hindu temples. Mahmud Khalji was a restless and ambitious monarch. He fought with almost all his neighbors, the ruler of Gujarat, the Rajas of Gondwana and Odisha, the Bahmani Sultans, and even the Sultan of Delhi. However, his energies were principally devoted to overrunning South Rajputana and trying to subdue Mewar. The rise of Mewar during the 15th century was an important factor in the political life of North India. With the conquest of Ranthambore by Alauddin Khalji, the power of the Chauhans in Rajputana had finally come to an end. From its ruins, a number of new states arose. The state of Marwar, the capital at Jodhpur, founded in 1465, was one of these. Another state consequence in the area was the Muslim principality of Nagaur, Ajmer, which had been the seat of power of the Muslim governors, changed hands several times, and was a bone of contention among the rising Rajput states. The mastery of eastern Rajputana was also in dispute. The ruler of Delhi being deeply interested in the area. The early history of the state of Mewar is obscure. Though it dated back to the 8th century, the ruler who raised it to the status of a power to be reckoned with was Rana Khumba, 1433 to 68. After cautiously consolidating his position by defeating his internal rivals, Khumba embarked upon a conquest of Bundi, Kota, and Dungarpur on Gujarat border. Since since Kotha had earlier been paying allegiance to Malwa and Dungapur to Gujarat, this brought him into conflict with both of these kingdoms. There were other reasons for the conflict too. The Khan of Nagaur, which had been attacked by Rana Khumba, had appealed for help to the ruler of Gujarat. The Rana had also given shelter at his court to the rival Mahmud Khalji and even attempted to install him on the Malwa throne. In retaliation, Mahmud Khalji had given shelter and active encouragement to some of the rivals of the Rana, such as his brother Mokal. The conflict with Gujarat and Malwa occupied Khumba throughout his reign. During most of the time, the Rana also had to contend with the Rathors of Marwar. Marwar was under Mewar occupation, but soon it became independent after a successful struggle waged under the leadership of Rao Jodha. Although sorely pressed from all sides, the Rana was largely able to maintain his position in Mewar. Kumbhalgarh was besieged a couple of times by Gujarat forces, while Mahmud Khalji was able to raid as far inland as Ajmer and install his own governor there. The Rana was able to repulse these attacks and retain possession of most of his conquests, with the exception of some of the outlying areas such as Ranthambore. Rana Kumbha achievements in facing two such powerful states against all odds was no small achievement. Kumbha was a patron of learned men and was himself a learned man. He composed a number of books, some of which can still be read. The ruins of his palace and the victory tower, Kirti Stambh, which he built at Chittor, show that he was an enthusiastic builder as well. He dug several lakes and reservoirs for irrigation purposes. Some of the temples built during his period show that the art of stone cutting, sculpture, etc. was still at a high level. Kumbha was murdered by his own son, Uda, in order to gain the throne. Though Uda was soon ousted, he left a bitter trail. After a long fratricidal conflict with his brothers, Rana Sanga, the grandson of Kumbha, ascended the Gaddi of Mewar in 1508. The most important development between the death of Kumbha and the rise of Sanga was the rapid internal disintegration of Malwa. The ruler Mahmud II had fallen out with Medini Rai, the powerful Rajput ruler, leader of the eastern Malwa, who had helped him to gain the throne. The Malwa ruler appealed for help to Gujarat, while Medini Rai repaired the court of Rana Sanga. In a battle in 1517, the Rana defeated Mahmud II and carried him a prisoner to Chittor, but it is claimed he released him after 6 months, keeping one of his sons as hostage. Eastern Malwa, including Chanderi, passed under the overlordship of Rana Sanga. The developments in Malwa alarmed the Lodi rulers of Delhi, who were keenly watching the situation. The Lodi ruler, Ibrahim Lodi, invaded Mewar but suffered a sharp reverse at the hands of Rana Sanga at Ghatoli. Ibrahim Lodi withdrew in order to consolidate his internal position. Meanwhile, Babur was knocking at the gates of India. Thus, by 1525, the political situation in North India was changing rapidly, and the decisive conflict for supremacy in North India seemed to be inevitable. Thank you everyone for tuning in. In the next part, we'll start with Northwest and North India, the Shariks, the Lodi Sultans, and Kashmir. Thank you, all the best for your exams, and do share and subscribe the channel for more videos like this. Thank you.